Something strange is happening in Malaysia right now. Tourists are arriving excited and leaving angry, scammed, stranded, or completely stressed out. And weirdly enough, the problem isn't the hotels. It's not the food. It's not even the airports. It's the transport. Because one of the most common ways tourists move around Malaysia might actually be the worst mistake you can make there. And the craziest part? Almost nobody warns you about it until it's too late. So, why are so many travelers suddenly saying the same thing? Never use this transport in Malaysia. Malaysia sells itself as a modern tourist paradise. Futuristic skyscrapers, tropical islands, cheap food, luxury malls, smooth highways, fast trains. On paper, it looks perfect. And honestly, in many ways, it is. More than 20 million tourists visit Malaysia every year. That's larger than the population of some entire countries. But hidden inside that tourism boom is a growing problem nobody talks about enough. Transportation chaos, especially involving taxis, unofficial rides, and certain long-distance transport systems tourists blindly trust. Now, before Malaysians attack me in the comments, relax. Not all transport in Malaysia is bad. In fact, some of it is world-class. The MRT system in Kuala Lumpur? Excellent. The airports? Surprisingly efficient. Even the inner-city trains are improving fast. But there's one category of transport that keeps showing up in horror stories again and again and again. And this isn't just about inconvenience. This could literally ruin your trip. Let's start with a classic tourist trap. Airport taxis. You land at Kuala Lumpur International Airport after a 10-hour flight. You're tired, hungry, sweaty. A random driver walks up smiling. Taxi boss? Cheap price. Sounds harmless, right?
Wrong.
Because this is where many tourists get cooked. Some visitors report paying 3 to 4 times the normal fare. Others get taken on unnecessarily long routes, like they're trapped in a real-life side quest. And some don't even realize they got scammed until days later. Imagine paying the equivalent of first-class airline prices for a car ride with broken air conditioning and a driver watching TikTok while driving. That's the problem. The system confuses tourists, especially first-time visitors. But here's where things get complicated. Malaysia actually has good ride-hailing apps. Apps like Grab completely changed transport across Southeast Asia. Transparent prices, GPS tracking, driver ratings, digital payments. Simple. So why do scams still happen? Because outside airports, malls, and tourist hotspots, there's a silent transport war happening. Traditional taxi operators versus app-based transport. Old system versus new system. Cash versus technology. And tourists are caught in the middle. Some taxi drivers hate ride-hailing apps because they destroyed the old monopoly. Years ago, tourists had limited choices. Today, one smartphone changes everything. And that shift created tension. Real tension. This is where the contradiction begins. Malaysia wants to be seen as a global tourism powerhouse. Modern, efficient, safe. But parts of the transport experience still feel stuck in 2009, especially in certain tourist-heavy areas. Take places like Bukit Bintang or certain island destinations. You'll sometimes find drivers refusing meters completely. Instead, they throw random prices at tourists depending on appearance. If you look foreign, price goes up. If you look confused, price goes way up. It's basically surge pricing without the algorithm. And for tourists coming from countries with strict transport systems, the experience feels shocking. Imagine boarding a taxi without knowing whether the ride will cost $5 or $50. That uncertainty destroys trust fast. Now, let's talk about buses. Because this is where opinions split hard. Some people swear Malaysian buses are affordable and reliable. Others? They say never again. And honestly, both sides are correct. Malaysia has hundreds of long-distance buses connecting cities like Kuala Lumpur, Penang, Johor Bahru, and Malacca. Tickets can cost less than a fast food meal. Sounds amazing. Until delays happen, or communication breaks down, or you accidentally book an older budget operator with seats that feel like punishment designed by engineers. Some overnight buses look luxurious online, then arrive looking like they survived 3 economic recessions. And tourists often don't know the difference between premium operators and sketchy ones. That's the danger. Information gap. And then there's the islands. Langkawi, Perhentian,
Timon.
beautiful paradise destinations. Crystal water, white sand. Instagram heaven. But transportation there? That's where things get unpredictable. Boats get delayed because of weather. Schedules suddenly change. Tourists get stranded waiting for ferries that operate on what feels like spiritual timing rather than actual timing. And during monsoon season, everything becomes even messier. One canceled boat can destroy an entire travel itinerary. Miss your ferry? Congratulations. Your hotel booking, island tour, and connecting transport may all collapse like dominoes. Now compare this to places like Singapore. Singapore's transport system feels almost robotic.
Precise.
Predictable. Cold efficiency. You tap a card, board a train, and arrive almost exactly when the app says you will. Malaysia is different. It's more flexible, more chaotic, more human. Sometimes that charm is fun. Sometimes it becomes exhausting. And that's the bigger issue here. Malaysia is competing globally for tourists, not just regionally. Tourists compare experiences instantly now. One bad transport story becomes a viral TikTok in hours. One scam gets posted on Reddit. One angry YouTube video spreads everywhere. Perception matters. And here's the scary part. Most transport disasters don't begin with danger. They begin with small confusion. A tourist choosing the wrong taxi, booking the wrong bus company, trusting random drivers outside airports, ignoring weather warnings for ferries. Tiny decisions, massive consequences. Because when you're traveling in another country, transport isn't just transport. It's survival. Your movement controls everything. Your money, your safety, your schedule, your stress levels. Get transport right? Malaysia feels incredible. Get it wrong. Your dream vacation becomes a documentary titled, "I Should Have Stayed Home." But to be fair to Malaysia, the country is trying to improve. Kuala Lumpur's MRT expansion is modernizing urban transport rapidly. Digital payments are growing. Ride-hailing apps dominate many areas now. Infrastructure projects are expanding constantly. Malaysia knows tourism is serious business because tourism brings billions into the economy every year. This isn't just about moving people. This is about national reputation, economic power, global competition, and Southeast Asia is becoming brutally competitive. Thailand is fighting for tourists. Vietnam is rising fast. Indonesia is pushing hard. Singapore dominates luxury efficiency. Malaysia cannot afford transport chaos if it wants to stay ahead. So, what should tourists actually do? Simple. Use verified ride-hailing apps whenever possible. Research bus companies before booking. Avoid random airport approaches. Double-check ferry schedules during rainy seasons. And most importantly, never assume cheap automatically means safe or reliable. Because sometimes the cheap option becomes the most expensive mistake of the trip. And honestly, this entire story reveals something bigger than Malaysia. It reveals the future of travel itself. Modern tourists don't just judge countries by attractions anymore. They judge systems, convenience, safety, predictability, experience. A country can build beautiful skyscrapers, but if moving around feels stressful, people remember the stress more than the skyline. So now Malaysia stands at an interesting crossroads. One future looks incredible. Smarter transport, better infrastructure, cleaner systems, seamless tourism. A regional giant competing with the best in Asia. But the other future? More tourist frustration, more scams, more viral complaints, more distrust. And in the internet age, reputations can collapse frighteningly fast. That's the gamble. And honestly, the next few years could decide everything.
So, what do you think?
Is Malaysia's transport system unfairly criticized? Or are tourists right to be cautious? Have you ever had a crazy transport experience while traveling? Drop your story in the comments. And if you enjoyed this documentary-style breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and join the channel for more real travel truths people are too scared to say out loud. Because sometimes the biggest danger in a country isn't what tourists expect.